copied the program and I pasted it into the multi-line text. So step one, do that on all of your drawings. Write that down. Take notes, please. No one writes anything down anymore. All right. First thing you want to do. Second thing you want to do, because we have this diagram here. This is the house with all the different floors. AutoCAD, you can zoom in and zoom out, so you don't really know how big or small this stuff is. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to map out these as boxes. 9. I'm going to put it on a layer then. I'm going to create a layer called function. And I'm going to make it a light gray. And I'm going to make it the current. So these are going to be my functional boxes. The room sizes don't have to be exactly the same size as the function. Everyone understand that? The rooms could be bigger. Can they be smaller than the actual functions? And the answer is no, because if they are, then they're not going to work. 9, 15 feet. Oops. 14 feet. So that's this one. This one, that's the master suite. I've got a bathroom that's 80, that's 10 by 8, that's easy, walk-in closet as required. Exercise room, if I take 180 a square root, I'm looking at roughly 13 feet by 12 feet. And then the family room, I'll say 18 feet by 17 feet. To make my life easier, I'm just going to use this box command. Why do I like the box command? Because so if I want to copy these, they come in all at once, right? As opposed to joining the 4 lines and then typing in join. I mean, I can do that, but instead a whole bunch of steps. So I draw the 2 lines, then draw the boxes in. I need to have a sense of this so I can figure out how big these rooms are in comparison to this business. I'm going to copy this floor plan. I'm going to put on, you should have a circulation layer. If you don't, you can use your diagrams. The first thing I want to do, before I do a whole lot, is I want to figure out I have to decide how I want to attach to the house. I think the first thing you want to take a look at is circulation. Now it's arbitrary, like what side do you want to go off of, this side, that side, it doesn't make a difference, right? I mean, I have a possible circulation spine here. I have a possible circulation spine here. I have one here. It's possible that I could actually do a circulation spine this way. It's possible I can do a circulation spine this way. It's possible I could do it this way. It's possible I could do it this way. It's possible I could technically come back and drop it back this way and make this room smaller. Right? I get all this glass in the front. I don't think I'd walk through this First of all, I can't take the circulation and do this because I run right into a fireplace. So what am I after? I'm after a short and sweet circulation path. I don't really care. Then I have to decide where would I want to put this. If I go back to my model, this side's challenging with the slopes, but I could do it here. This side, I got a little more space over here. I got some space back here. I'm not sure I'd put an addition right in front and block the views. If the owner would actually go suborbital, but I don't know, maybe you want to challenge their sanity. I just wanted to see a reaction when you got really pissed. No, don't do that. That's a bad idea. So, should I go this way? Should I do the harder one? John's like, yeah, let's do the harder one. Jocelyn's like, yeah, we want really tough ones. All right, whatever. That means I'm going to take this bedroom and probably make it a little smaller. I'm going to draw a circulation spine. Now when I put the circulation spine in, I'm really not going to make a real hallway. Does Meyer do real hallways in here? Like if I take a look at his house in 3D, that second floor is a balcony, but it shares the space with the upper living room, right? The first floor, there's a circulation spine, but it's underneath the balcony, but you're still spatially in the living room, even though you're in that kind of circulatory area. What you don't want to do is a real hallway. We're going to call it a circulation spine. We'll draw it conceptually as a solid eventually, but when we're all done, we want to be as spatial as possible with that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take maybe my new family room sits here. Maybe my new bedroom sits, I can put it anywhere, here. Maybe my exercise room, because it has to be a duplex, maybe the exercise room sits on top of this, so I'll leave this off to the side for now. Because I have to get this into something that resembles 3D. Because this is a 3D chess set. You can't really design in 2D for any length of time, because you're going to get yourself in trouble. I'm going to go to Views, Viewports 2. So I'm here. I'll go over this side. This one I'll leave on shaded. Over here. All right, let's say it could be a family room, is the most hierarchical, could be the bedroom, could be a master, could be the exercise room, doesn't really make a difference. Pick one. So let's say I want this to be my hierarchy. I need to stand out. if I draw this as a, and I'm going to create another layer. I'm going to make it called, oops, diagram. Oops. And I'll make that yellow. And I'll make it. So I'm going to take, just for argument's sake, that will be my room. That's the room. Now the room can be slightly smaller, but I have to be able to get the functional area of this square in the room. They say, what about these corners? Yeah, but you made up with some of this other business, right? So that's close enough. Now what I don't want to do is make the actual space twice the size of the function, because then that becomes a big issue with building economics, and the client's like, what do I do with all this space? And I'm like, oh, you just use it for whatever you want. I'm like, well, $300 a square foot, that gets to be very expensive for whatever you want. Now this neighborhood, yeah, you can't overbuild, but I can take another one. Maybe that's my master bedroom, right? The other thing I'm going to do in here is I'm going to throw in a circulation spine. I'm going to draw it as a solid, but eventually it's going to be a spatial thing. So I'll just go to draw a line. Four feet wide. So when I go to draw a box, this box is going to be my circulation spine. I'm going to make the box 4 feet wide. What does that account for? It accounts for, why is that off? It accounts for the fact that it's a 3-foot corridor and 4 inches of wall, and could be 4 or 6 inches of wall. All right, so I have enough room in there because I need a 3-foot hallway, or at least a 3-foot space to walk around. You don't want those narrower. I'm going to take and move this. I'm going to put that there. So I've got a wall there. I've got this thing. I can push and pull all this. This right here was going to be my circulation spine. Now I have to decide, once I get into a 3D thing, I said, how big is this going to be? So I'm going to take and copy the floors. I'm just going to bring them over. All right. I'm going to draw a line from here to here perpendicular. That includes the construction of the floor, the space, and the construction of the floor. I'm going to do a second line. Oops. I want to pop this down to the bottom. I'm going to do a second line from the bottom of the floor to the perpendicular here. So what is this? So if I go to do an 8-foot space, that includes the floor thickness and the ceiling or floor above thickness. This includes the floor and the roof. So let's say, for example, I want to make this a 2-story space. I'm going to plunk that right there. Now I'm going to extrude . Okay. Let's say I want to make this a 1-story space. I can copy this. I'll plunk it there. And I'm gonna copy this and just bring it over because I may need that height again. I'm gonna extrude. So now I have relative heights. Let's say I wanted to put the exercise room above. Now, I'm gonna find out where this exercise room would go. First, I'm gonna plunk it over here. So I'm gonna copy this. Well, actually, I'm just gonna move it. I'll put that on. I'm gonna plunk it onto here. So that's a lower level, first floor, entry level, upper level. This now gives me spatially where this would be. So if I go over to here, and I take and move this and plan, I want this to be a little bigger anyway, because that's just the size of the function, right? I'm going to take and move. I screwed this up. This is on the wrong level. I'm going to take and move this let's say I want to put it on this level. Line up my circulation spine again. So now what I have here, family room, master bedroom, exercise room. Now you notice there's like an overlap here. This is sort of the construction of the floor. I have to make sure that these things line up. I'm just going to take this out for a sec. That lines up. So somewhere, looks like I kind of screwed something up. That lines up. This needs to be set down, the thickness of that. All right. So I'm going to move previous, no previous objects. Move. Thickness of the floor. So now the floor is lined up with this. That's lined up with the floor and the ceiling here. The roofs are lined up here. I'm going to take this thing and turn it into a conceptual hall now, but I'm going to draw it as a mass. Now remember, I'm drawing all of these things as masses. These are placeholders for spaces. Justin, placeholders for spaces. I need to get the height on this. I'm going to extrude. Pick. And I can copy it. I can move it up to essentially there. And somehow this is off again. Oh, that's because I made it too tall. This has to be moved down. which means I gotta redo this one. So now, this is a conceptual hall. That doesn't mean it's gonna be enclosed. A lot of times you go into your houses and the hallways are all enclosed. Why? Because they're all surrounded by bedrooms. But Myers, you know, if you have a bedroom, there's a door, but the hallway doesn't need to be completely enclosed. So now he's got this. I have to decide, how do I want to hold this up? So what's the process that we took a look at? I copied the program. You should write this down. I then mapped out the function sizes. I then drew the spaces slightly larger. I then put the spaces into 3D. So this is a 3D diagram, right? I put in a conceptual hall as a mass. It's a placeholder. So all of these masses are placeholders for rooms, which will eventually become spaces. The next thing I want to take a look at is structure. Like, how would I hold this thing up? It's floating out here. I'm going to take and copy. I'll put this here just for funsies. So now I have structure to hold this up. Let's say I want to, that's part of Meyer's system. Let's say I want to use his bearing wall system, so he's got girders and bearing walls. I'm just going to draw a wall back here. Whoops. This is where I'm going to use the wall command. It's a bearing wall. I'm going to take and copy this. Oh, there's the bearing wall. It's all the way down here. I'm going to take and move this thing up. Let's say I want another bearing wall. Put one right in here. I could put one here, or I could put one here. I'll just put one right here. I'm going to pull this bearing wall all the way up to the parapet. So now I have a bearing wall. I would cut out the insides. I still have the parapet. So now you can see what the addition is. And let's say I wanted to take this and bring it all the way up to essentially here too. Possible. Now, let's say I want to go from I have to draw a bathroom in over here, so somewhere along here, I'll just draw it. I'll take a box. I'm going to squeeze this thing down. I have to make it 8 by 10 or 10 by 10. be a bathroom. I could take and squeeze the bathroom a little more maybe, but I have to measure that. Maybe over here becomes a walk-in closet, I don't know. I have to decide how I want to do that. Maybe this goes this way. And I'll copy. And I'll bring this back to maybe here. All right. Walk-in closet, bathroom, master bedroom, exercise room. The exercise room is a duplex. So I have a circulation spine here. What happens when I get to the end of this hall? How would I go from the master bedroom to the exercise room? Oops. I'm going to grab a set of stairs. Bring this over here. Rid of that stuff. For now, I'm just going to group this down and dirty. So let's say I come off the circulation spine. I can either do Myers stairs this way, or maybe I want to do something different. I want to break Myers' rule. I need at least 3 feet here in order to get a landing. Oops. I have a landing, so you can come down. Maybe there's a platform here, and then I'm going to take and copy this. From here to there. Now eventually I have to take these pieces out, right? Like, yeah. I'll color code some of this stuff so it doesn't look so bland. Walls. And I'll match it. Structure. I now got something that I'm like, all right, let me see what this looks like. I'm going to take and copy this whole thing because I'm going to need to group some stuff together. I'm going to take, I'll get that out of there. I'm going to group that and that. Now I'm going to take and copy that, and I'm going to put it on the site, see what the heck is going on. Like, this whole thing is hovering. Well, that's not good. I'm going to take and copy. Oops, I have to ungroup. I'm going to take and copy this one over here. let's say I want to take this set of stairs and bring it further down. So he goes down to the I have to put a platform down here. I have to take out these things. So now I have a possible solution. The first one you do is going to be really tricky because you're going to have to deal with the heights, the sizes, putting the functions in, getting the circulation done, how do you get up and down. All those, yes.
So we're doing multiple of these?
You can do three different designs. Well, because if it takes me a half hour to do this, maybe it takes you an hour and a half, but you can do 3 different, quick designs, right? Because here's the thing, by the way, professionally, I never just do one design, even for my own benefit. I have to do a bunch of them. Now, a lot of times I'll do the one I think, the one the owner wants, and I'll do one in between where I think that works. I've always done this professionally. Once you map out the first design, this entire thing goes a lot quicker to come up with the second design. Why? Because you already have parts of this that work. If you don't, you're like, I'm gonna go for the first thing I possibly do. Let's just, let's say I wanted to mirror, actually, I'm gonna mirror oops. Circulation spine. I could possibly put an addition off this side, right? Now, I may have to move things around because things won't work here. I can take this wall out, for some reason it didn't go. I'm gonna copy now I have a possible solution here. And I just need to put a little connecting hallway in here. So once you start to map out the first one, it's challenging. How big are the spaces? How tall are they? Where do they fit? Now, it doesn't mean that this you have to go back in and fiddle with this. But each time you go to draw a successive proposal, you fully understand the scale, the size, where it fits relatively. So when you coming up with a minimum of 3 different designs is fairly simple. I can push and pull all these. So for example, I can take this one, so now I've adjusted so this circulation actually comes in much tighter of the big gap. This doesn't really interfere with the inside of the house. We can cut that later. So now it's a. Now you may decide you need to go to push and pull stuff and move things around, or you need to add closets or other stuff. But the only way to become familiar with the project, get the program out, map out the sizes of the functions, make sure the spaces are larger than the functions, make sure the spaces are the heights that kind of work. So you can actually think about this as a 3-dimensional chess game. Because in design 1, you thought about this diagram as a 2D thing. And so that's limiting in a way because because the environments that you're going to be working in are going to be much more 3-dimensional. So by giving them heights and giving them sizes, it's easier to actually, now does this bedroom have to be a circle? No, I don't know if I would make it a circle. I could make it an octagon. I'd probably straighten things out because it starts to get to be a bit of a bear to work with the circles. Anyone try to put in circular windows, circular glass, circular stuff? You know, it gets to be, it's kind of hard, right? Oh, let's say you want to do an octagon. Poly, 8. That works, right? I could take this. Now I have something much easier to work with. The other thing is you have to go back to your narrative and your ranking, and you got to decide what is your hierarchical element. So for example, if your ranking says your exercise room's the hierarchy, then you don't want to do a 2-story family room, all right? Whatever you have on there is what we're going to go with. I've had projects that go, it doesn't make a difference whether the master bedroom the exercise room, the deck, outdoor space, or the family room of the hierarchical element. You can still do a successful project, as long as you conceptually define what the hierarchy is and it's visible in the solution. Yes, no? Very quiet. So, should really copy down the steps.